mastering our mind. So essentially it's simply just about the awareness. So the difficulty with the brain or the mind is that we get identified with it and therefore try to do something. Whereas this essence of mastering our mind is essentially awareness and being in touch with the silence within us and the awareness at all times. And that is essentially it. So that's it, end of the workshop. Essentially, that's it. So that, because people are very identified with their five senses, because the brain, of course, lives in here. It's in a dark box. It doesn't know anything unless we have, we see, we hear, we touch, we taste, and we feel. And then it interprets. And of course, the interpretations it's making are generally taught. So most people aren't thinking their own thoughts. They're thinking thoughts that they have been given. They're thinking thoughts they've been given by their parents, by their society, by their schooling, by collective consciousness generally. So it's ongoing from our workshop, because today we're obviously going to be exploring how to be aware at all times. And that is the essence of it. If we can be always aware, 100%, not 100% not engaging, but 100% of the time aware of the essence of ourselves, the eternal spirit that exists, that has never not existed, that always exists, is there. If we can be in touch with that, then of course we're free, and then we can master the mind, because we will be able to be conscious of what we think, how we are in the world, and what we create. Because essentially, if for the 2 weeks after this, your kind of homework, beginning with the homework in the first 10 minutes, if you can get into your body at all times and check whether what you're saying and what you're saying more is actually authentic. Because often we'll do scripted things, things will come out like, often weather, politics, there's so many things that are collectively taught, and we might have scripts that were taught us when we were little. We might have a script that will put us in a certain light, that we don't want people to think of us otherwise. So we'll have a way of saying something so that we are putting out what that person will think about us. We'll have saying what we think about a situation because it's what everybody else says. And it's so conditioned that it will be interesting to check with the body, which is why today we're going to get deeper and deeper into experiencing ourself and our essence, because you can tell when you say something that's bollocks, basically. You can tell in your own body. You think, what did I say that for? Because it would have come out, and so many things just come out, and you're going, well, I don't know why I said that. And so it's always you will feel it if you get into the body. And the secret then is to be more and more aware and not beat yourself up, but recognize that there's an eternal essence that's watching it all, and that is always still, is always there, and is never ever ruffled. It's completely at ease. And there, if we come from there, then you start to decide what you want to do with your mind, because the mind's an incredible tool, but as generally people are locked in the box of the five senses, and therefore they think they are this kind of limited paradigm. Whereas what we can do by getting in touch with the truth of who we are is we have that sixth sense, we have that higher self, we have something bigger to access what we truly want. And of course, it can be very uncomfortable to receive something from our higher self that wants us to do something different to what we've been conditioned to say or think or do. And that's why generally people will prefer to stay in the mind and locked in, not mastering it, and prefer to stay in, but obviously not a people of you, because here we are. And of course, at the core of it is as I will have emphasised to all of you at different times, is to recognise also the reactivity in the body, because that will be an arrow. If we feel a reaction to what somebody else says, if we feel a reaction to what somebody else does, if we feel any reactivity, we can have an arrow to something where we can actually clear away an energetic block that will probably be related to something the mind is thinking. So at the core of it, I will say it again and again and again, if we can be completely non-reactive, now that doesn't mean not feeling the feelings, but if we can be willing every time to clear that feeling before we act it out, we will be in a better and better position to have all that space between stimulus and how we respond. Because there is actually massive space between anything that stimulates us on the outer realms and how we respond. And if we're responding by a pattern, a program, that can be, it can feel actually quite nice sometimes because we're gossiping with people, we're all saying the same thing, we feel concluded, or it can feel uncomfortable because there's a dissonance, and we can feel reactive and want to disagree, which means therefore we're identifying with our opinion, and therefore that's where a power struggle can set up. Whereas we're not our opinions. It doesn't matter, it's fun to have opinions, but if we know we're not our opinions, then we can have a genuine conversation with another human, because we can genuinely listen to their perspective. They can listen to ours, and the space is safe. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't happen necessarily. So the next thing that's really key to practice is so first listen to the body at all times, whatever you're saying. Is that really authentic? Is it really true? Is this really what I think? Because some of it might be. We'll engage, and people often say to me that they've said a Judaism. And I said, yeah, but if it's become yours, it's yours. We do take on board things that become ours. The next thing is really, reactivity is key. But then, so the awareness. The next thing is being intentional in our dialogue. And if we can be intentional, even if someone else isn't, we can then flow. And if we're not attached, if we're mastering our mind, and they think completely the opposite to us, but we respect that person's view and know that the namaste, the spirit in you is the spirit in me, then of course obviously the whole world would heal. So those are the three main things that I would emphasize is listening to your body over the next 2 weeks, really being mindful, see if you can really not act out of reactivity. Now that also means not pushing it down, because some people aren't reactive, they're fucking blah, 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 blah. I can't not say that word on camera, clearly. Clearly I'm Copturettes with that, I can't help it. But that's still reacting, or slightly just going, it's just as reactive as So if you cannot react at all, clear it. So that doesn't mean you won't feel the feeling of irritation or upset or slight, but that would be amazing. And it's often good having a 2-week thing, because, well, you're being gozo actually, some of you, before the 2 weeks, about 2 weeks time. So I'll then keep you going. But, because I've got retreating gozo on the truth of who you are. But then the other thing is being intentional at all times, because it's very easy to just come in with a different opinion, come in with a different view. And that will mean that you're in a much better position to be the master of your mind and know your awareness and know you are awareness. Because if you know your awareness and you have that experience of awareness, it isn't difficult. So the key is to know you're not your mind, to get in touch with the higher self, to get out of connected just with our 5 senses. Our 5 senses are amazing, and what fun. And being human is such fun, and all of this biscuit time and being together and playing together. But how much more playful we can be if we're relaxed, how much more playful if we're all safe together. And all of us feel completely safe together. None of us are going to, react with each other or any of those things. So it's good to have the practice in this safety, to be listening to each other, to be aware, to be sharing. And that is how really humans want to be. I mean, really and truly. But if we're practicing it, and then we're going to do obviously some chanting and things, where what happens with the meditating and the chanting is we can get in touch and clear any of the tension that might be in us, clear away some of the old stuff and patterns, and the more we can experience that essence, and it builds and multiplies with a group of us, then we're going to take that out into the world. If we can be a light unto ourselves, then ultimately that does expand. And actually, Nadia and I were talking yesterday that I read an article just the other day that said in the world, generally, people aren't, I don't know if this is true, by the way, but it was an interesting article, that about 1% of the population are awake in that they know their consciousness and they know that they're not the body-mind, and about half of that carry on, half go back, and it's like the red pill, the blue pill, it's like, Jane was saying, the river of
Lethe.
And you either
drinking to remember or drinking to forget at the end of one life and beginning a new life in mythology.
Drink to remember. Thank you, Jane. I don't know if you heard that. The river of Lethe, where you drink to remember or you drink to forget at the beginning of one life and the end of beginning of another. And therefore, it's the same as in the Matrix, the red pill, the blue pill. That ultimately, that awareness is said on this article. Put 0.05%, 0.05, so less than half of 1%, actually go on to be a complete awareness and, whatever we want to call it, enlightenment. So Anati and I were exploring this and saying, therefore, think how bright that is. We're in a paradigm of polarity. It's in equal measures. It can't be any other way in this paradigm at the moment, that there is equal amount of dark to light. There's equal amount of joy to sorrow. There's equal amount of everything. Might not look like it because of the way it's promoted in the news and things, but it is actually, it has to be. There is that balance. So therefore, there's an equal amount of enlightenment to unenlightenment. So that means that 0.5, the half of the 1%. That's how bright that is. That it balances, so that's 40 million people as opposed to 8 billion, that balances it out. So therefore this work is so important, because the lighter and brighter you get, it illuminates out into the world. And so that's where the olden days, it used to be more people would retreat and be properly retreated for years and years, and it would make a difference because they would be in touch with their essence. But spirituality more now is about being in the marketplace, as it were, and being able to be still and bright and at ease and intentional and mastering our mind in the world. So that is the mission, and we've got a day to make sure ongoing days. We've done lots of days. We do lots of days. We keep gathering, which is good.